so when we broke up, it was one of those moments where I was like, I have to get my shit together. This terrible anxiety, and I couldn't function or breathe properly or think properly. I lost like 10 kilos in a month. Like, I was not functioning.
Hello, gorgeous things. Everyone, this is Sophia Rose Bernardi. She is a mindset and business coach, but really an events expert.
I have to figure out how to cope with these emotions, how to love myself, how to be independent.
If we hold the energy of resentment, within ourselves, then we're the one drinking the poison.
You've got to look at what are the best of the best doing, and success leaves clues and follows that.
Your success has so much greater potential if we can harness
Cosmic Money, the podcast, the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.
Hello, gorgeous things. Welcome to today's podcast of Cosmic Money. I'm your host, Sky Hanley. As always, you know who I am. But I'm super excited to have. You're a little pocket rocket, and and we're going to talk about that in a second. But everyone, this is Sophia Rose Bernardi. She is a mindset and business coach, but really an events expert. And I think that's so timely. We were just talking about my events as well a moment ago. Sophia, it's so good to have you here. Hi.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Full disclosure, I must admit that that so many of our guests, pretty much all of our guests, have been, amazing next level, coaches and business people that are really stepping, to that seven-figure bracket and beyond and things like that. And I think all of them in some regard have either been, direct friends of mine, very lucky to know such amazing humans, and or connections and stuff like that. You're probably our first guest that I was like, I need to have Sophia on, where I actually reached out and said, hey, would you come and chat to these, our amazing people? So when I say, it is a joy to have you here, I am actually really excited, for this conversation and for everything that you're about.
That's honestly made my day. That's so nice to hear that. And I'm so excited to just be able to give freely and share my story, share anything that would be helpful for your audience today.
Course. Amazing. And so, again, full disclosure, everyone, we have no idea where today's conversation is going to go, and we're just rolling with it. We're just going to unpack and, as always, see what magic comes forward, with everything that Sophia is about. So, I mean, look, the first question kind of is, who the hell are you? What the hell are you doing here? Like, why the hell are you? What are you about? What is going on in your life right now? Give us the scoop.
Totally. Okay, so current situation, I am 26 years old. I live with my partner, Geordie, in sunny Queensland, although it's feeling very cold today. And I've created a really amazing business. That's a simple business model. It's sustainable. It's scalable. It allows me to travel, spend time with the people I love, and help my clients to be able to create the same. So that's kind of my world at the moment. But it definitely didn't look that way, 4 or so years ago. A lot has changed in that time.
Amazing. I feel like, with everything that you just said, you and I were talking about strategy and behavioral science and universal stuff. And I said that, you and I are very similar in so many regards. So everything you just said about simple business is scalable business and, all of that, I'm like, cool, podcast done. Thanks, everyone. Like, that is all. Like, if you take nothing else away from today, simple business is scalable business, right?
Yes.
So tell us then where you were 4 years ago before you because you're so bloody young. Like, I'm ready for Botox, and having those conversations, and you're sitting here going, hey, I'm 26 and, hugely successful and all the rest of it. Tell us about how you got there.
Yeah, my age is definitely a hot topic in every podcast I'm featured in. It's always about my age.
Just as it offends us old people over here that are just like, oh my God, to be back, to be 26 again and have the level of, success and notoriety that you have. And, what is it? Like, the world is at your fingertips kind of thing. That's how I feel for you. Yeah.
I definitely have gained a huge appreciation for the age that I've started my business because of all of these comments that I always get. I almost didn't start my business. It was about 4.5 years ago now, because of my age, I thought, oh, who's going to work with me? I'm too young. Like that was definitely a fear of mine. And I think valid, to be honest. I was a life coach. Who's going to listen to a 22-year-old life coach? But they did, which
What
is
life?
wild.
What life have you lived, buddy? Like, yeah, it
Yeah.
is a little bit like that. It's like this bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to share, my story, because then there's going to be a lot more context as to why people did buy from me. But I definitely have a huge appreciation for my age and when I've started because of all of that. And now I don't take it for granted, because of all these comments I always get of like, I wish I started at your age, and I wish I started before I had kids, and all these things. So I've been on this huge mission to build a really amazing business so that when I do have children, I'm able to really be there for them. And I don't believe in any way that children need to stop or slow down your business by any mean, but it obviously will look different. And so if I can capitalize on this abundance of time that I have at the moment, then I will, because relationships to me is one of my top values. And I know that I'll want to be with my children as much as possible. And yeah,
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
amazing. My partner and I kind of hold those values as well. We always thought about it like we don't want to struggle, and we want to make sure that we make those choices and, we move into like that sort of family life or something like that, that we have this beautiful existence that is built, for us. And again, regardless of where people are on their journey or what they chose, to do first, second, third, whatever, like, you can absolutely make it work. Like there is a
Of
path
course.
regardless. Like,
Yeah.
totally, totally. So then tell us, a bit about like, yeah, where did it all start? So we can kind of take people on that journey of, how did we end up here? And they can
Totally.
obviously get a bunch of gold from that.
Yeah, so I actually, funnily enough, I shared my entire story in a lot of depth on my Instagram stories earlier this week, and
I
I'm
actually
telling you,
saw that. I did see that
yeah,
earlier. Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
I was flooded in my DMs for like 48 hours of
Wow.
people that had read that. Like people were in tears, all these sorts of things. So um, basically, when I was 16 years old, I found out that my dad had a pretty severe gambling addiction, and I had no idea, but when I was told, everything made sense. Made sense why we were struggling financially. It made sense why, there would be certain arguments and certain things going on in my family, and it just all made sense. But for my nervous system at 16 years old, you don't really know how to process emotions or deal with those sorts of things. And so I think my brain, has blocked it out. It was a very traumatic period. There's lots of things I could say about that time that I won't, but it was a really dark time for my family. Because my dad really only told us at that point because things had gotten quite bad. He had managed 20 years plus. He was doing that well before I was born. Not needing to tell people or anyone, but it got really bad where he owed a lot of the wrong people money. And the very next day after he told us, he got checked into a clinic to try and get better, but he left the clinic. He didn't stick around, and my mum just could not do it anymore. And it was really, it was actually dangerous, to be honest. So with the people he had gotten involved in. So it actually resulted in my mum, my brother, my sister, and I moving overseas to Denmark in Europe, because that's where my mum is from. All her family's there, and she could not support 3 children as a single mother working a casual job at probably $30 an hour. She wasn't working very much. So we really had no choice but to move. And we certainly couldn't afford tickets there either. So my grandparents paid for all of that, on my dad's side. And just within a month, my whole life was different. Just woke up, on the other side of the world, new country, new culture, new climate, couldn't speak the language, and life was very different. And at 16 years old, if you remember, like, all you care about is your friends and your social life. And to be taken away from that, your dog, your home, everything is very uncertain. And my body really responded in different ways. Like I lost a lot of hair, and my brain's blocked out a lot of that time, and I would faint and all of these random things because my body just couldn't hold everything that was happening.
I think like there's something to say. I've actually thought about this before that in relation to traumas that happen later in life. So, for instance, my family, like my parents are divorced and things like that, but that happened very early. And to be honest with you, I only have few memories, if any, of them actually ever being together. I know them as individual humans, but not ever as a couple because it happened so early and when I was young. And when those kinds of things like family breakdowns, like I don't think we actually think about that or process that so much, where we go, yeah, like it's when you're halfway to being an adult at 16. You're not quite there yet by no means. Are we processing like an adult or like an emotionally intelligent being. And so in that middle bracket where it hasn't happened earlier, it's happened in the middle and it hasn't happened later as an adult, like it actually is a bit of a mind fuck.
Yeah.
And I think that even this is just, we'll just go slightly sidestep for 1 second. I think that about death as well. I had a friend say to me the other day, "Oh, I think my grandma is about to die," and which is very sad and all those different things. That would be the first death that she has experienced, and she's well into her 30s. And I'm like, that's really interesting, like having to
Mm,
process that at a whole other level as an adult because you haven't had to journey that as a younger person either. Like
yeah.
these are the weird things I think about, but it really speaks to how traumatic that actually is at the age you were when all of that occurred.
Yeah, and I feel even more sorry for my brother who was 14, and then even more sorry for my sister who was 11. I think that's a rough age, and she definitely suffered far greater than my brother and I did. And yeah, so that happened. And to be honest, usually when people's parents split up, it is very traumatic and difficult. But to be honest, because of everything that was
Yours
going
sounds
on,
a little bit more traumatic. I'm going to say that. Let's start. Like, there's no competition. However,
no, there's definitely all situations are so valid, and there's
yeah,
definitely no comparison there. But my point is that actually, like, due to what was happening, my parents splitting up was not even a problem. Like, that actually was
yeah,
like the beautiful thing. That wasn't even painful or emotional at all, just due to everything else that was happening. And watching my mum go through a divorce, suddenly being a single mum, no money, um, you know, she went from having all this life and energy and love within her. She loved to bake and everything, to seeing us eat frozen pizzas and her just not being able to cope. And then her feeling this immense amount of guilt and shame for having taken her children away from their life. It's something she
mm,
actually still suffers with today, unfortunately. Just
yeah,
it was such a huge thing for her. Anyways, I really struggled for a few years, on and off at quite a deep level while I was in Denmark. Went through some pretty dark times, but eventually came out the other side. And when I graduated school, I decided to move back to Australia, as that's just where I felt more at home. And I thought that moving back would just everything would be fixed. But I sort of realized that your problems do come with you, and not everything was fixed. I still didn't have those tools to deal with certain emotions and things like that. And on top of that, I also had no idea what to do with my life. I had no purpose or direction. I nearly failed school. I didn't have grades to just have all of these options either.
yeah.
And I just had to go on this journey of figuring out what to do with my life. Um,
I think like let's make a little point of that, as well in there. I did a post recently that was my own little tantrum to spelling Nazis and grammar Nazis and things like that, because same for me. I didn't leave school with amazing marks, and I nearly, I probably nearly failed English if I should have failed English probably, right? And so like I think that there is so much diversity out there, and and success. There is so much success out there for us all, regardless of whether we've left with like these perfect amazing marks. Like does it even matter, kind of thing. And that really anybody who's listening to this right now, any of those limitations that other people put on you, it's fucking bullshit. We're
I
allowed to swear
know.
we swear on
Yeah.
this, like just letting you know, Sophia. Like it's such bullshit, right? Because it's like if you're an amazing caring human that wants to go out there and do good in the world and help other people in particular, like there is nothing more rewarding than that. And success will find us regardless of whether we can spell a word, have grammar, or whatever came up for you in relation to your own schooling and stuff like that also. And I think that's so
Yeah.
important.
And it's a really good point you make, because I really did grow up my whole life thinking I wasn't good enough and I wasn't smart enough. Like even before I moved to Denmark, I, have been diagnosed with dyslexia and all of these sorts of things. I was always in special classes, always separated, always in the lowest
It's
classes,
such
and
a
yeah,
label. Like it's so
and
labeled.
yeah,
You have to believe it your entire life that, oh my gosh,
yeah,
exactly, you're not enough or not good enough or not,
yeah,
in the whatever. Like, yeah,
and
how can that not traumatize somebody?
And I know that schools, they separate you and put you into special classes to help you. I understand that, but
Yeah.
they never communicated that. I was always just
Yeah.
taken out of classes, and so I think if I was given the context as a child, I wouldn't have thought that there was something wrong with me. But because I wasn't actually told why I was being put in special classes and things like that, I was just left to feel that way, and so then moving to Denmark, being in another language where I truly just couldn't understand anything, then that was just amplified even more. Like, I'm dyslexic in English, let alone in
Yes.
fucking
Yeah.
Danish. And so,
Yeah.
where
So
it
I think
genuinely is backwards.
yeah, and so I think I'm undiagnosed dyslexic, like, and there are absolute reasons for that, across time and space, and also, it has the potential to be in families, and there is an amount of it within, one arm of my family, and so I've actually been looking into those things recently, just out of general interest and entertainment for my own existence, that I've had all these years, and I saw a really great little definition, even just of sort of dyslexia, and the fact that it isn't an intelligence limitation, it's a pattern recognition one.
Yes,
And it's
exactly.
like that gives me goosebumps to even think about, because I just go, well, of course, like, that's why you can sit there and have amazing success and be the next level human that you are, and and that I think I am as well, like pat on my back, and it not be an intelligence factor, like by any
Yeah.
means, and I don't think that's communicated, like,
No.
knowing that it's just simply a piece of the brain that is like a pattern recognition that is saying, hey, you don't get spelling, you're going to, muddle things up or forget that. I forget letters even exist sometimes. I'm like, what the fuck? What does that word even start with? And I like sit there and I run through all of the potentialities and still land somewhere where I'm like, nope, can't spell it, no idea. And this whole other like letter jumps out of nowhere, like, and I'm like, how did I forget that existed? Like, that's so
Yeah.
weird, right?
And
Like, yeah,
you're exactly right. Like, it is just a pattern recognition thing. So
yeah.
you're right. It's not an intelligence thing, but again, wasn't told that.
No,
So,
nobody says
and
that.
And so
Yes.
it just kind of goes to show that, like, whatever you think and whatever you believe becomes your reality. So because, the story I told myself was like, oh, I'm dumb. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. That
Yeah.
obviously led the way for a long time and really blocked me from being able to see what my purpose was, really blocked me from being able to have confidence in myself and back myself and trust myself, because constantly throughout life I was just taken away from situations and separated and whatever else, because
That's what,
I
yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, you go. I was going to say that's the limitations I'm talking about, right? Like it's just
Yeah,
crazy. And so, if nothing else, we've got simple business is scalable business. Take this other piece away from, today, everyone who's listening, that if you are somebody who's out there and is, perhaps neurodivergent or has a label or something like that, can I just say, one, some of the best humans that I know are literally neurodivergent. And I'm not even kidding. The way in which that their brains work and the level at which they think at, and, how they action out there in the world, whether it's a dyslexia, whether it's, ADD or
ADHD.
ADHD,
Yeah,
it's almost like a friend and I have a bit of a joke just between ourselves, but also, we joke because we think it's reality. It's almost like a prerequisite, of entrepreneurship, right?
yeah,
And so and so if anybody is feeling limited by that, actually it's almost the opposite. Your success has so much greater potential if we can harness, those pieces that are different, and that are, air quotes, divergent, right? Like there is so much magic in that, really, and and if nothing else, the same for you, same for me, it just becomes part of your story, because like fuck
yeah,
yes, why not, like something to push
yeah.
through, and like yeah, exactly.
I don't see it a limitation in any way now for myself or for others. I think it's just like everyone learns differently anyway. And it's just like
Yeah.
finding out what is your way. Like, that's why I get a bit funny with labels. I know that they can be really helpful for people, and I do believe there's a time and place for them. But for me personally, I suppose it's not been helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so didn't know
Yes.
my
What happened next?
purpose.
Tell us.
Was,
Tell us.
I was also in a relationship, but then because I was lacking so much confidence in myself, and because I couldn't find my purpose, and everyone at my age at that point was, in uni and knew what they were doing and figuring out their life, it just really spiraled me, and I ended up, going through a breakup, probably because I would have been quite difficult to be around, I can imagine, at that time in my life, and just adjusting to living back in Australia. I was living at my grandparents in their spare bedroom, paying them rent, working a casual job for my uncle at his bar for 12 hours a week. I was just bored and unfulfilled, and in this bizarre circumstance that no one else I knew around me was in. They were all living at home with their parents, and all those sorts of things. And I just felt very out of it all of the time. But when I went through this breakup, it was a real rock bottom moment for me, because that was something I was quite dependent on at the time and really relied on for like happiness, and especially his family as well and everything. And so when we broke up, it was one of those moments where I was like, I have to get my shit together. I have to figure out how to cope with these emotions, how to love myself, how to be independent, because I literally I would wake up with this terrible anxiety, and I couldn't function or breathe properly or think properly. I lost like 10 kilos in a month. Like, I was not functioning. So it forced me into the personal development world of reading books and watching YouTube videos, because I didn't know what else to do. And fast forward, I ended up going to a 4-day seminar, and realizing I was actually surrounded by a whole bunch of coaches. And the moment I had my own breakthroughs at this event and realized, I am good enough, I am lovable, all these things, I then I couldn't believe the transformation that happened in such a short time after being stuck for so long, that I was like, wow, I need to teach this to people, so that if they're stuck for years and years, they don't have to be. They just need these tools. And it just was this light bulb moment of like, oh, like I'm surrounded by coaches. Coaching is a thing. You actually can coach people on this. And in that moment, I knew that that's what I was meant to do. And I straight away hired a business coach to help me. And I've never looked back. I've just hired coach after coach. And obviously now I'm a big fan of long-term mentorship, but sometimes you've got to kiss a few frogs to get there. And here I am.
I kind of make jokes that it's like our own little pyramid scheme, because it's like coaches, coaching, coaches, coaching, coaches, and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, if you are a coach, and look, just full stop, if you are a coach, you understand the benefit of having
Of course.
coaches like that are in your in your corner, and yeah, holding that belief in you when your own belief falters, and giving you those upgrades, and all that kind of thing. I mean, it is very, I will make a side note to that too. It's very timely as well. I think that, that the marketplace is shifting a little bit, and there has probably been a lot of people out there that have kissed a few too many frogs, and please just know that there are actually amazing humans out there that do genuinely
Yes.
not only have the care and capacity to be able to help you, but the strategy and, upgrades to do so. So if you've been burnt before, hello, come and hang out with me, or come and hang out with Sophia, or any of the other amazing humans that come on this podcast. Like, they are all,
A single one of
people
them.
of
Sure, some
integrity.
people have been better or more supportive than others, and whatever else. But to be honest, I think, a big part of entrepreneurship or succeeding in entrepreneurship is taking radical self-responsibility. So I've decided not to continue with a coach for XYZ reasons. I've made sure that I've really, I've taken full responsibility for why I had that experience or whatever. It's no one's fault. It's just my responsibility, right? And some of the quote unquote not so great experiences have actually been some of the best experiences, because I learned what not to do, which in turn tells me what to do. And so I think it's really important. Unfortunately, so many people have been burned by a coach or had a terrible experience, and it's not fair and it's not great either. But if you can look at that, what is the learning there for you? Like, what is your takeaway from that, so that you can just really heal from it and move from it? Because what I see happen is a lot of people get burnt, and then they let their past affect their future decisions. Then they don't invest in a coach, or they're so scared, and that actually affects their future. And you don't want some shitty experience you've had to impact your future. So in order to move on from it, I find finding the learnings, finding the forgiveness, finding the breakthroughs in it, is going to allow you to move forward. And that's why I've never really been affected by any investment I've made, even if there's been a quote unquote loss of money, because that's my responsibility. Now I'm going to be even more intentional with the next investment, and that's how I've continued to grow.
I've spent my life obsessed with the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business. I've literally traveled the world trying to crack the code. And what I've found is that when you couple the pursuit of making massive amounts of money with the strategy and science of success, plus having a desire for significant impact and contribution, magic happens. That's why I created a free 21-day next level vortex money mission magic. Hell yes to that. This 21-day quantum business challenge is here to shift you into new timelines and realities. 21 days to quantum shift your impact, business, and your bank account. These carefully crafted and channeled tools are the exact things I've used to create a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I'm not done yet. If you're ready for incredible transformation now in all areas of your life, more money and financial freedom, freedom of time, freedom of lifestyle, freedom of choice, better, more connected relationships, greater levels of health, and simply calling in more magic into every single day, then these 21 days are going to blow your mind. 21 days of powerful universal, behavioral, and strategic tools to quantum shift your internal state so that you start to see massive changes in your external reality, bringing the metaphysical into the physical. Join the challenge now and get ready for the most powerful 21-day expansion to quantum shift your impact, business, bank account, and your life.
Cosmic Money, the podcast.
The strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.
It's like that saying as well that, to do with like, it's like you've drunk the poison yourself, because at the end of the day, if we're sitting there, it's not that whatever experience, if it was not great, fair enough, and there's varying degrees of not greatness as well. Right. But if we hold the energy of resentment, within ourselves, then we're the one drinking the poison, at the end of the day. Like, and so because they can't hear you, that coach is probably still out there doing their thing and whatever and all the rest of it. And so sometimes I don't know if forgive is the word, but maybe it is, or simply if we can find the lessons within it, it really takes it from being a disempowering journey and it re-empowers us, and it goes, that's okay. Didn't love that. Here are the reasons why. This is what I would do instead, then it actually puts the power back inside of us instead of having this festering resentment for the experience that we've had. And as I said, that is not to devalidate the experience, because perhaps it was terrible, but it's just to free ourselves from the ongoing emotion, as you said, that is going to affect decision making, long term.
Completely agree.
And I would hate for any of our listeners to play small, because of some once off terrible experience that maybe they had. That would be such a shame, for that to be a long term thing in the end. So once you became the life coach and amazing human, that you are now, and started transitioning, like, tell us what happened next. What did you go out there and do? Who did you help? How did it kind of evolve into obviously like what it is that you do now in terms of, I think helping amazing like coaches run events and build their businesses and mindset coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously I did not start as a business coach because I had no business experience. I started as a mindset coach, helping women build confidence in themselves, because that was the thing that I had the major breakthrough on. I learned these tools through the personal development work I had done and the seminar I'd attended on how to do that. And so I was helping women build confidence, and the business really started to grow. It was right as the global pandemic hit as well. That doesn't help, but I just leaned into the experience, and I was working many casual jobs all at the same time too. And the business really grew, and people were getting great results, to the point that then the people I was helping then wanted to become a coach and help people with what I had taught them. And all of a sudden I just had a lot of people asking me, how have I grown so quickly? How have I grown my business? And for a long time I ignored it. I'm like, oh, I'm not a business coach, go to this person. But then eventually I realized I was really turning away a lot of people at that point, and I could help people just with what I had done. And so that's what I started doing, is just sharing simply what I had done, and people started getting great results. And then I actually realized I enjoyed that even more. So I transitioned to a business coach, and have really taught a combination of mindset, knowing that that is a big piece of showing up and being an energetic match for what it is you want, and you know, having the confidence to take massive action. I teach really simple strategies, and one of those strategies that I teach is running online events, because that is what I've done from day one. That's how I signed my first clients, and it's still what I do today. You can run free events, paid events, virtual events, in person, whatever. I focus on virtual events and primarily free events, and it just supports me so much from that sustainability piece. Like, I'm out traveling right now and I can just run an event from the Airbnb I'm at. I can be anywhere and help people, and add massive amounts of value. And it's just so cool. And, you know, helping many people at once, and then have many people join my programs at once. It's just such a great way I've found to grow. And then you pair that with group coaching, like masterminds and things like that, and you've just got a really scalable business. You know, it's one to many in all of the ways, and it just feels so fun, especially because the strategy that I follow to grow is through helping people. Like, running events are very valuable, you know, and so I feel like I'm actually living my mission every day. I feel like I'm leaving an impact through these events, and that to me is so key for me to go to bed at night feeling like I've helped people regardless. And yeah, so now I realized that that was something that not every business coach loves or knows how to do. And so that's why I sort of have niched unintentionally in that. And a lot of people come to me for that now specifically.
So give us some like, what are your kind of top 3 tips? I'm listening definitely, because I'm currently on my Australian tour as well. We've already done Sydney and Gold Coast.
So
Next
good.
week, yeah, I've got Melbourne coming up, and we'll also be running online. So I love this as a conversation anyway. So basically for me, but I guess also for our listeners, give us you know, your top 3 tips in relation to running events, and also, like, give us some why, you know, why do you specifically love events? You know, what does that, again, you've spoken to freedom that it gives you to be, you know, in any location at any
Yeah.
time. Yeah, what else is in it for you, and what would you say, like, what are the top 3 tips for running
Yeah.
events?
So the 3 benefits, because if I don't share that, then yeah, the tips I share won't be very helpful if
Yeah, no,
people aren't
makes
sold on
sense.
it. So
Yeah.
the first thing is it's really simple, and a lot of people are like, oh no, whenever I've done launching an event, it's not simple at all. But if you have a process to follow, it is simple, just like anything, right? It's like when we learn how to drive a car, we have, there's so many things to focus on, and it's very overwhelming. But when you learn how to do it, now we can sometimes drive with our eyes closed, you know. And so when you have a strategy, it does become very simple. And so I have a formula. I don't reinvent the wheel every time I run an event. I follow the same process. So it's very simple. It's very sustainable from the lens of, instead of having back-to-back sales calls, back-to-back conversations, posting 5 times a day on every different social media platform. Don't get me wrong, I do bits of those things as well, but events allows me to not need to do all of that constant stuff all of the time, because events does the hard work. So it's very sustainable from the lens of, like, I'll run one event a month, and that will nurture people so quickly. So instead of people being in my world for months and months and months and years, you know, they can find me, and within a week or a couple of weeks, they become a high paying, high quality client that stays in my world for a very long time, because events just nurture so quickly. People say that they need to consume like 3 hours of your content and they'll become a client. And so you can imagine, if you're just doing posts or quotes here and there or whatever it might be, it can take a long time for people to be nurtured. But if you run an event, it nurtures people really quickly, and it allows you to have a very sustainable business model. You know, it's not exhausting to run one event a month, you know, so that's the sustainable
Yes.
piece.
I always say to my clients as well that, like, posting by itself isn't a complete strategy anyway. Like, it's
Mm,
actually not, you know, posting is bare minimum. You know,
yeah,
that is the least that we can possibly do, like, to just kind of show up and have that kind of background nurturing, and, you know, and get a bit of, like, know, like, and trust connection, a bit of value adding and things like that. But yeah, by itself, it is not actually a start to stop, you know, lead generation sales system all the way through to onboarding. Like, it just isn't, you know, it's something we do. Whereas events, as you're saying, it's actually more of its own self-contained, full, like, a strategic system of attracting, you know, attracting to nurture, and then be able to convert in such a, like, microcosm, you know, simpler fashion as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, really simple, really sustainable. Like, it's very sustainable for me to run one event opposed to being on like 10 sales calls a day or whatever it might be, like other things I see out there, or doing these constant live videos, just constant of all these things. You know, I just find running one event, doing an amazing job, works. And then it's very scalable, of course. Like when something's simple, when it's sustainable, and when you're helping many people all at once, it's very scalable. So that's the benefits for me. On top of that, like some bonus benefits is like, it feels really good to talk about your zone of genius. Like, how lit up do you get when you talk about your greatest passions, something that's just come so naturally to you? Like, that's fun. Like, I can't believe I get paid to have fun. I get paid to talk about the things that I love, you know? So
Yeah.
that's really the benefits of it. Now, my top 3 tips would be, the first one would be, you know, you only need one event really to be able to grow your business. You can alternate between different topics and so forth, or just change up the title, but a lot of the inside of it is very similar and things like that. Like, there's lots of little strategies around that. But really, if you have like a signature method or process or a framework, or, you know, everyone calls it something different, but a unique selling point, that what makes you unique, like that's very important, that you know your target audience and you know how you help them in a unique way. So Sky, you would have a way that you help your audience that's very different to how I do it, and how different to how someone else does it. Of course, like anything, there will be overlap, but you'll have something unique about you and the way that you teach. And there's going to be, if you can get people to believe that, they're going to work with you over anyone else. And so you got to know your framework. And then essentially all an event is doing is getting people sold on your framework. So how can you introduce them to that? How can you educate them on that? How can you handle any objections that may come, you know, your way on that? And how can you back it up with evidence? So for example, when I'm, you know, getting people to believe that events is so powerful, I talk about how, look at what all of the top CEOs and coaches are doing. Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Alex Hormozi, Russell Brunson, all of these people, like surely someone knows at least one of those names, right? Like they're all running events. Like Tony Robbins' entire business model is running free events and paid events. You know, Russell Brunson, who owns ClickFunnels, like all it's about is like running webinars via ClickFunnels, and he'll run events to sell ClickFunnels and so forth. Like they're all running events. And so you got to look at what are the best of the best doing, and success leaves clues and follows that. So that's a way on how I educate my audience to like start to really believe in the concept that I'm teaching. So you would want to think about, what is the thing that you need people to believe that only you teach, or that's unique about you? Because if you can get people to believe that, then they're going to buy from you, right, over anyone else. And Russell Brunson actually says that as well. You know, his job is to get people to believe that funnels is the best way to grow your business, and you can only do it properly through ClickFunnels, is his belief, obviously. You know, he's created this whole system where you don't have to do anything, like it's all done there for you, you just have to pay for it, kind of thing. And so you've got to have a point that you're trying to get across in your presentation. I think that's like tip number 1, is like not just teaching everything everywhere.
I think in there, you know, you actually really, I mean, you hit on a bunch of things that are super important. But there was this piece in there, you know, that people actually borrow your belief,
Yes.
you know, and so that is like really important. If you're in any kind of sales process, or you're a service-based business, or you are a coach or something like that, like, you know, somebody comes to us and they are going to borrow our certainty and belief in whatever it is, like within integrity. You know, it's not about blowing smoke up somebody's ass if the solution isn't actually you know, relevant to them. However, like if it is, you know, then we have to hold that first, you know. And I see a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs and business people out there kind of get that wrong. They're like, I don't know, or like maybe that comes back to the confidence and mindset piece, like you were saying before. But actually holding that certainty, you know, that it's like what's his name, Richard Brunson says, or whatever. It's like, yeah, exactly, like if funnels is the path, this is the answer, the solution to, you know, the greater problem, right? And so we have to be like that as well, because they have success for a reason, you know.
Exactly.
And if we can dissect that in any way and see what it is that they're doing, and, you know, hone in and take a little bit of that for ourselves, then absolutely we're just going to elevate even more in what we're doing.
Yeah, 100% agree. The second tip I'm going to share is like, you know, so many people then invest all this time in creating this amazing, you know, workshop or webinar or event or whatever. But they give way too much how to. Like, it's a big mistake I see. Like, they just like they just want to make it so amazing they give it all away, which there's a positive, pure intention there. But the downside of that is that if you actually give too much information, you can actually overwhelm your audience. And it also leaves them walking away being like, wow, that was so good. I'm going to go implement that all on my own now. And, and that's obviously not what you want, because what we know and what coaches know listening to this will know that, you couldn't share everything on a free event, even if you tried. Like, it's just the tip of the iceberg, and if you know anything about icebergs, like 90% of it is beneath the surface and you can't see it. And that's really only attainable inside someone's program, where there's the personalization, there's the more in-depth explanations. And so you don't want to pack too much how-to information so that it doesn't leave your audience thinking that false belief that they've got everything they need when they don't, so you actually want to educate what and why.
It goes one of two ways, right? Like, it either goes into, oh my God, thank you so much, you've given me everything that I could possibly need, and I'm going to go out there and implement it myself. Or it actually is information overload and we fry their brain.
So and they're like, this is too hard.
It's too overwhelming, it's too hard, like I've been given, and they end up in like paralysis, because we've just given with all the pure intention, that is out there. But at the same time, we can either fry them, or, they'll go, cool, thanks, you give me everything that I need, and I'll just go and do it myself, like, why do I need to come and join or something? So there is that beautiful happy medium, like, giving the what, and they also say, it's like solving a problem and creating another one. It's a little bit like that too.
Exactly. Yeah. So you obviously don't want it to be one of those shitty events where your audience walks away being like, I actually have no idea what I got out of that. Like, you obviously want to give them insights. No, you want to help them, and you want to give them a lot of value, but just not a lot of how to, like, step one, do this and whatever, because then they go into the how-to mode of like going to solve it. Whereas if you can give them insights, that's going to be really great, and get them sold on the concept. And then if they want help with the concept, that's where they can take the next step with you. So, that would be the next thing, is like the next tip is not to overload with too much information. And then I suppose the third thing that I'll share is that a lot of people put so much effort into their event, but then they forget to actually promote it properly. And if you're not loudly and proudly selling people on why they should come to your event, if you're not consistently doing that, and you have a proper launch strategy or marketing strategy to actually get people to not only register, but actually show up, stay, and then become paying clients, like, there's lots of little things and big things that you can do to improve that, then it's going to be really difficult to make the most out of the experience. So you want to make sure that you've got a proper marketing strategy in place, and you have clarity on, like, this is what I'm doing to attract them, this is what I'm doing to nurture them, to increase the show up rate, this is how I'm going to convert them post the event and follow up and all of those things. Like, having that seamless process is going to be everything.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's not, language you and I would use is like, it's the workshop that doesn't matter.
Yes.
And although it matters, we know it matters. And you want to create a beautiful experience. As I was saying before as well, it's actually not the complete strategy, and it's those pieces that happen before the masterclass, the workshop, the whatever, in the front end, and also, what happens after it.
Yes.
Like, those are the pieces that matter most. And that's where, a lot of people get events wrong. I find that as well, is that they go, okay, we're going to run a really beautiful session and everyone's going to love it, and that's it, and like, cool, and we leave it, I don't know, to the gods or something, like, to hopefully sign some people up or whatever. And there's so many more aligned strategic portions throughout it that obviously, like, help to bring more people towards you and have them sign up.
Exactly. Yep, 100%.
I love all of that. You're honestly like talking to myself. I'm not going to lie. Like, success leaves clues, and like, what did you say? Self-responsibility for their actions and therefore their results. Like, these are all things, that I say to all of my tribe all of the time as well. And so it's amazing, chatting to you and getting that kind of reiteration from another source. So hopefully, some of that sticks with our amazing listeners today. I was going to ask you, what kind of gets you excited, but really, like, I'm just sitting here soaking it in, and I can see you in your passion, and I can see that this is, what completely gets you excited. What would you specifically say it is about it that it is about mindset and business and events and serving that actually is that driver for you?
Yeah. So I guess, for, like, just to be completely transparent, I guess, like, when I first decided to become a coach, initially what was driving me was just pure happiness that I finally found my purpose. Like, do you know what I mean? It's so funny. I see a lot of new coaches talk about, oh, I want 10K months, I actually don't even remember when that sort of thing came into my realm. Like I don't remember that ever being a thing until I was in the coaching industry and everyone was talking about it left, right, and center. And then I was like, oh, I need 10K months. But that is so not why I started. I always think that it's a bit problematic if that's the reason why people start, because of just purely the money. Like, I just don't remember that ever crossing my mind. I was like, wow, I know what I want to do. I want to do it now. And so, like, I guess I was just, my why in the beginning was just like, I have a purpose and I'm living it, and that's what feels good. Money matters. I love money and I care about money, but it just wasn't the driving force, if you know what I mean. So I think it was just the passion of being this creative outlet. Like, I think I'm very creative, and it was very fun to be like, create workbooks and create programs and create all these, Canva things. And it was just very fun to like get creative on how I could help people, how I could give tips and tools and resources out to my audience, and run these events. Like, I just found it was fun to create a beautiful experience for people, and obviously help people. Like, it's really cool that I know that I've contributed to, back when I was a mindset coach, like people getting off antidepressants, people finding the love of their life, people improving their relationship or finding their purpose and passion. That's just so cool to me. And then now, as a business coach, helping people retire their husband, go full time, make 70K in a month from an event, and like, just be able to create this amazing life. I'm like, that lights me up more than anything. But the transparent part I want to share is, I have no doubt from a subconscious level earlier on in my business that a driving force was to have the complete opposite life that my parents had. That was something I really had to move through, as I was actually moving away from something that I didn't want rather than towards something that I did want. And which is why it wasn't about the money, right? It was more about, I just don't want to be anything like my parents. I don't want to be however old they were, 40 years old, and going through a divorce and having to move on the other side of the world with 3 children. Like, I don't want to be struggling financially. Like, I didn't want any of those things. And so I had this burning desire to like achieve and create success and build something amazing and build a lot of security. Like, I needed a lot of security around me to feel safe after everything, like just losing everything and life turning on its head. It really ramped up that security piece for me. And so I think for a long time that drove me subconsciously of like, well, I need more so that I feel safe, and so that that never becomes my reality. But when I clocked myself on that, I obviously did a lot of inner work and healing on that. And now I would say I'm not really moving away from that anymore, and more just moving towards like just the bigger mission of like, how can I touch more lives, and how can I make the lives that I do touch, more of them have the best experience and get amazing results. That's always this journey I'm working on, is like, how do I speed up that process so that more lives just are being improved? Yeah.
Mm. My next question is going to be around mindset, but you've actually, again, touched on a few key things in there that I just want to frame for people.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it earlier, our core human needs. And we have, I think it's
Yes.
5 core human needs, not the Tony Robbins ones, but the simple ones of like, am I safe? Am I loved? Am I worthy? Am I safe? Am I loved? Am I worthy? Do I belong? And the other one, am I enough?
Mm-hmm.
Am I safe? Am I loved? Am I worthy? Do I belong? And am I enough?
Mm-hmm.
And these are actually deep seated across all humans, like of all of us. Am I enough? Am I worthy? Like, you spoke to some of those earlier, like, am I loved? Like, and maybe, finding those external validations and stuff like that, but then being able to find it, contained within yourself. Do I belong? Like, where is my tribe? And finding, those people and things like that. And it's so transformative when we to use your word, clock that so much of what we're doing and how we're moving through the world, we may not even realize, probably comes back to some of those core those core pieces. Am I safe? And if I don't feel safe, or I'm not safe, like, how can I be safe?
Yeah.
If it's a away from driver, where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want that, I know I need this other thing, so how can I create that for myself? So for you then, what are the mindsets? Like, are there a few, key moments or key ahas or lessons that you learned or experienced or moved through, yourself in your journey around those mindsets that were just so transformative, that changed the game for you forever?
Yeah, such a great question. I mean, Firstly was like when I shifted from focusing on the short-term wins to the long-term vision, I noticed a big shift in my business. In the beginning, I was, when I started learning about, 10K months is a thing and all that sort of stuff, and really, started to just get a little bit more into the data and metrics of things of like, I went through a lot of challenges, and especially the first year of business, I was an emotional roller coaster of like feeling hard, not working, blah, blah, blah. And when I really got into that, I was so focused on like, I haven't made money this month or this week, or, like I would just focus so short term. And I would notice that that was a bit of, that's not that healthy. But when I shifted to the long term vision of like, what's this actually for? What's the bigger picture? I noticed that there was a huge up level within myself. So that's the first piece. The second piece was very much around when I started trusting myself fully to make scary decisions and take risks. I also experienced a huge up level because in the beginning, I didn't trust myself. I actually trusted external people and situations more than me, which is why I coached top in the beginning, because I'm like, well, I don't know the answers. So I kept investing in so many coaches. And then I'd go into all these programs and realize I actually know all of this. Like I actually have all of this from the last coach and the last coach and the last coach. Like, but because I didn't trust myself, I just kept.
Gorgeous being. It is truly my honor to have you here joining me on this co-created adventure through the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business. However it is that you landed here, whether we know each other personally or professionally, whether a friend shared this podcast with you as they thought you might get something out of it, or whether you stumbled across me by sheer accident or divine intervention, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to ask you a little favor. It is my joy to do what it is that I do every single day. And so if you have received anything here, a piece of magic, a strategy, a mindset shift, something that has transformed you in some way, I ask that you share this podcast with others so that together we can transform the world for the better. One business, one human, one frequency, and one podcast at a time. Cosmic Money, the podcast. The strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.
Instead of trusting what I had and going all in on that, with support, I just kept finding new and new support. But when I realized, hold on a minute, like the reason I'm making these decisions is because I think I don't know this. And so when I realized that, the answer here is not to not have a coach, by the way. It's just to find your coach and stay with that coach, that long-term approach. I've now been with my coach for 3 years, and I'm not saying I've not had other support around that for more niche specific things or short-term things. I absolutely have. But instead of thinking I'm missing some magical secret now after having invested, hundreds of thousands in myself, I now trust myself that I actually can make decisions. I can take risks. I am going to execute on them and all those sorts of things. So I think self-trust is a huge piece. I still lean on support every single day, but it's not coming from this place of I don't trust myself, and more so, how can I do this better? How can I do this faster? Or, just leveraging what I'm paying for as well. And then the third mindset thing is just, I started taking massive action in alignment with my goals with full responsibility for my results. So, it's one thing to take action from the place of like, this coach needs to get me results, or this has to work because it works for someone else. And it's another to just like, whether I have a good result or a bad result or something in between, I need to take full ownership of that, and no one's coming to save me, and I think that responsibility piece just allows me to like really show up for myself and not being a victim, because it's hard to truly show up if you feel like you're a victim. They're the mindset shifts.
I heard a saying yesterday from another amazing coach that we know, Laura Higgins,
Mm-hmm.
and and she literally said that good old thing of like, exactly, I can give you the car, I can fill it with gas, I can hand you the keys, but at the end of the day, you're the one who's got to drive it, right?
Yes.
And so that is for our clients and the people that we serve, but it's still for ourselves as well. It's taking that self responsibility, and going out there and taking those actions and doing all the things that you were saying, and being like, look, I'm not a victim to this. I've got to drive the car, but I can leverage, obviously the help and support that is available.
Yes.
But only I can do it. And really, people know as part of my story, the saying that changed my life was, our lives will only expand in proportion to how much courage we are willing to have, and at that time I knew I was playing small, and I knew like I was totally recoiled in the unhappiness of my own existence. And I was like, fuck, if I want bigger, if I want better, if I want more amazing, it is nobody else's responsibility but my own. And I will only achieve and succeed and receive, in proportion, like, to how much courage, like, I was willing, like those big leaps and jumps and resilience and trust and like, and making mistakes and, picking the crown up, dusting that motherfucker off and putting the crown back on our heads, like, and keep going. So yeah, I mean, again, you're just talking my language, girl. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I guess I have two more kind of questions for you then.
Yes.
We do actually help, a similar bracket in our own unique kind of ways. And so I know that you would have some magic to bring forward as well for those coaches, for those service providers, for those entrepreneurs who are out there right now trying to get to those kind of, 15K brackets to 30K brackets and things like that. What would you say, like, to them? Again, we're going with 3 tips today is apparently our theme.
I love that.
What would be, just make it really simple. Here are the 3 things, 3 things to 30K. What would you bring forward for them?
I would say really number one is like focus on simplicity. So it's like one target audience and one offer and one core strategy. Like,
Yep.
and kind of like we spoke about before, like posting content is not one strategy. That's like a piece of the puzzle of a strategy. So like one marketing strategy, and there'll be a few things involved in that. But my point is you don't have to be on every social media platform doing everything, but just having one clear strategy. So one target audience, one offer, one strategy. That would be piece number one, is the simplicity. If you're trying to sell too many things, target too many people, do too many things, it's going to be really difficult, right? So I'm all about mastering, not dabbling. So that would be number one.
Yep.
Number two would be totally add events in there, right? Like get that down packed so that you can really just do that process a lot faster and help more people to stack your revenue so you can get to those 30K months and beyond. And the third piece would be to, I don't know, this is a bit of a random one, but I would really just say, like, fall in love with the whole journey. Like, I'm talking, the shitty moments, the high moments, the everything in between. Fall in love with sales. A lot of people don't like sales. A lot of people don't like marketing, but find a way to like create a business model that you actually love. Like, I'm not saying I love receiving a shitty message from someone or whatever, but I do accept that shitty things are going to happen on an entrepreneurial journey when you're putting yourself out there, when you're trying to do big things. You can't say, I want the world, I want millions of dollars, I want this and that, but then you only take the good parts of that. It doesn't work like that. Like, you are going to get both. And it's like the yin and yang. It's, you're going to get both. And you're like, the more you want, the more you have to be able to hold the opposite of. And so if you can accept that and fall in love with the whole journey, it's just going to make your experience so much better. Because if you hate sales and you hate marketing and the only thing you actually want to do is just help your clients, then you're hating a huge, huge, huge part of your business, and it's going to feel draining. It's going to feel exhausting. So you need to create a business model that you truly love. And I'm not saying you're going to bounce out of bed with every single thing that you do. Like, of course, there's going to be some moments that are more enjoyable than others, but if you can take the full package for what it is, then you in turn will receive the full package.
And I think it's Layla Hormozi is one of the people who preaches this as well, very much so. The idea, and we promote it around here quite a bit too, like, you have to be able to action regardless of your emotions on any given day. And so if we can just fall in love with the journey and we understand that sometimes the clunky, is a part of that, and we can still show up and we can still do the thing and take that step back, and still perform, right? Like, it's a performance outcome that gives us the result. But if we just sort of go, oh, I'm having a bad day today, or I don't feel like it, and then we do nothing, then exactly, it's like, we're excuse my language, cock blocking our success. Yeah, very much so.
I always like use this example of, like, your supermarket. If you're in Australia, like, Coles, Woolies, whatever, but if you're somewhere else, just another example, but like a supermarket, right? It's like, if the CEO is having a bad day, he's not like, oh, I'm not opening today because I'm having a really shitty day. It's like, no, it's like they are open like the same times every day because they're a CEO, and CEOs don't make decisions based on emotions. Like, they have systems, they have processes, and that's why you trust them. You can rely on them that I know if I go to the supermarket at this time, they're going to be there. And if you don't show up like that as well, people can't trust you. People can't work with you if you're inconsistent and all those things. And don't get me wrong, there's exceptions to the rules of certain circumstances. And that's the beautiful thing about being a service-based business in the coaching industry opposed to a bricks and mortars business is, sure, you can take a day off. You cannot, shop for a day or two or weeks or whatever, but know that there's consequences with that over long term. But my point is that to really be a proper CEO, you can't be making decisions based on emotions. And I am not perfect. I've done it many times. And I can say from experience, it almost never ends well when I act based on emotions. Never works well, should not do it, but it happens. So, yeah.
Exactly. I use the same analogy, right? We've got to be able to put our CEO hat, operational, organizational leader hat on, and actually, take the actions, from that perspective. And Woolworths, if you are listening, I'm really sick of there not being any red capsicums every time I go in. So I'm glad you're open, but I'd really like a red capsicum sometimes. However, I feel like even the emotionality one, to me, that's actually a really huge part of it. Nobody is getting to seven figures building a business based on emotionality. It's just that simple. I think that's if I was to put one up there, that would be one of my ones, where I'm you've got to put your CEO hat on. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. I love all of that. I love you. I'm so glad that we've been able to have this conversation and bring you on here. You just are the epitome of everything that One Cosmic Money is about. These big conversations that we've had across both seasons of our podcast. Having that big why, being on mission, showing up, going until all of these kinds of I guess it's success coding, and when we've spoken to all of our amazing seven-figure and multi-seven-figure business owners who are out there doing the do every single day, we often speak to the fact that it's not about not having the meltdowns. It's about, having the meltdown, crying our eyes out, still fucking actioning anyway, doing all of the things because the why, because the mission is so much, look, I have goosebumps now, is so much greater than ourselves. And so being able to tap into that, it's infinite, an infinite energy source, and absolutely it's totally a pillar of great success. So thank you so much for being here. It's amazing. I love the fact that you have just been showing up in my vision, everywhere. I said before, it's either the universe or alignment, or it's the algorithms. Where is it that people can find you if they want to reach out and connect with you and, follow you on your journey and that kind of thing? Amazing. Again, thank you so much, lovely. We really appreciate you, and I'm excited, to see the rest of your journey. And I think you and I might be in a room together soon enough in the next couple of months. So I'll give you a big squeeze then when we actually get to see each other in person. So much love to you, and bye, bye, bye.
Cosmic Money, the podcast.
The strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.